My name is Anna Anderson, 29 years old. The night I thought would mark the happiest moment of my life became the night everything I knew about love and family collapsed. The evening air shimmered with fairy lights. My fiancé Lucas had planned a surprise engagement party at my parents' house. I'd spent 5 years with him, 5 years of shared dreams, lazy Sunday mornings, and long drives that felt infinite. He wasn't just my partner, he was home. Everyone I loved was there: my parents, my little sister, Melissa, friends from college. Laughter spilled through the house. Soft music swayed in the background, and I remember thinking, if happiness had a shape, this must be it. Around 1 in the afternoon, I'd stepped into the backyard to take a work call. The reception inside was terrible, and I needed a quiet moment before the chaos of the evening. The air was bright, the smell of jasmine heavy around the patio. Then I heard its soft laughter behind the old oak tree. At first, I smiled, assuming it was one of my cousins sneaking a drink. But when I rounded the corner, my heart stopped. There they were, Melissa, my baby sister, and Lucas, locked in a kiss so desperate it could have set the world on fire. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. I just stood there, the phone slipping from my hand, the world spinning in silence. Their movements froze when they finally noticed me. Melissa's eyes wide with guilt, Lucas's face pale, his mouth still open in shock. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I just turned and ran. I don't even remember how I reached my car or how I kept it on the road. The only sound I could hear was my heartbeat thundering in my ears, and the echo of Melissa's soft gasp, "Anna, wait." I drove until my hands shook so hard I couldn't grip the wheel anymore. Ended up at a small roadside hotel, the kind with buzzing neon lights and worn carpets. I sat on the bed, staring at the engagement ring on my finger until it blurred into nothing. Then my phone buzzed. "Melissa, I'm sorry, but I'm in love with him." I blinked. Once, twice. The words didn't register at first. Then another message. "Lucas, I never meant to hurt you. I thought proposing would make me forget her. But I can't. I'm sorry." I remember whispering aloud, "This can't be real." My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. The hotel room felt smaller with every passing second. I curled up shaking, choking on the thought that everything I had, every moment, every memory, had been a lie. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. For 4 days, I drifted between denial and exhaustion, replaying that moment under the oak tree like a movie I couldn't turn off. When I finally decided to go home, it wasn't because I'd healed, it was because I had to face the wreckage. I needed my things. I needed to remind myself that I still existed outside of their betrayal. I remember thinking, surely my family will understand. They'll be furious with her. They'll comfort me. But when I walked through that front door, bags under my eyes and heart barely stitched together, they were all there. Melissa, Lucas, my parents, even my aunt. And they were smiling. Melissa ran toward me with tears in her eyes and wrapped her arms around me. "Oh my God, Anna, I'm so glad you're back," she sobbed. I froze. Her perfume, the same one she'd worn that night, made bile rise in my throat. Lucas stood behind her silent. My mother clasped her hands together and said softly, "We were so worried about you, sweetheart." For a second, I thought I was hallucinating. How could they act like this after what she'd done? I swallowed hard. "I'm here to get my things and leave." That's when Lucas spoke, his voice trembling but firm. "No need. I've already packed my stuff. I'm moving in with Melissa." The world went still. My aunt smiled faintly. My parents exchanged looks that weren't angry, just resigned. I stared at them, unable to comprehend. "You're okay with this?" My mother sighed. "We can't undo what's happened, Anna. But love, real love, doesn't ask permission. We need to accept the future." Melissa wiped her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Anna. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Then Lucas reached for her hand. "We're meant to be." And right there before my eyes, they kissed. Again. My mother even wiped away a tear. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered. That was the moment something inside me snapped. "This isn't love," I said through clenched teeth. "It's betrayal. It's filth. And you're all acting like it's some kind of romance." My father frowned. "Don't be childish, Anna. These things happen. You should be happy for them." Happy, I laughed, an empty, broken sound. "You want me to celebrate the people who destroyed me?" He crossed his arms. "Stop making this about you. You're embarrassing yourself." That word embarrassing cut deeper than anything else. I looked at each of their faces one last time, my mother's false pity, my father's cold indifference, Melissa's watery guilt, and Lucas's cowardice. "I'm done," I said quietly. "All of you get out of my house." They didn't move, so I did. I grabbed a suitcase, shoved clothes inside, and walked out. Melissa called after me, voice shaking. Please don't go like this. I didn't answer. I just slammed the door behind me. That was the last time I saw them for 5 years. But betrayal doesn't fade. It festers quietly, patiently, until one day it knocks at your door again. 5 years ago, I left that house thinking I'd never hear their voices again. But that first night, as I sat in my car outside the hotel, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt heavy like a ghost pressing against my chest. In the days that followed, I kept replaying everything, the way my mother looked at Lucas with compassion, the way my father told me to grow up. I thought that maybe if I went back, anyone would finally realize how wrong it all was. So 4 days later, I drove home. Not to reconcile, just to gather my things and face them one last time. When I arrived, the house looked exactly as I'd left it. The same white curtains fluttering in the wind, the same garden my mom loved so much. For a moment, I almost felt nostalgic. But then I saw his car in the driveway. My heart started pounding. I wasn't ready for this. Not yet. But I told myself I had to be strong. When I walked inside, everyone froze as if they'd seen a ghost. Then, as if on cue, they smiled like nothing had happened. My aunt clapped her hands together. "Oh, thank God you're here, dear." Melissa stood beside Lucas, her fingers nervously twisting the ring on her hand. "My ring. Anna," she whispered. "You look pale. Have you been eating?" Her concern made me sick. My mother rushed to hug me, tears forming in her eyes. "We were so worried. You just disappeared." I pulled away. "You mean after my fiancé and my sister betrayed me?" The room went dead silent. I let my gaze wander over them all. "You're acting like this is some kind of family reunion." My father cleared his throat. "Anna, please. Let's not make this ugly. We're all adults here." "Adults," I laughed bitterly. "Adults don't steal lie and call it love." Lucas finally spoke up for the first time. His tone was oddly calm. "Anna, I know this is hard, but I love Melissa. You deserve someone who loves you the same way." That line nearly broke me. It was as if he was trying to repackage betrayal into kindness. Melissa's eyes brimmed with tears. "I'm sorry. I never wanted you to find out that way." I took a deep breath and looked at my mother. "And you? You're okay with this?" She nodded slowly, almost pleadingly. "We can't change the past, dear, but we can choose to accept what's ahead. Melissa and Lucas are in love, and we can't stand in their way." My chest tightened. "So you're choosing them over me?" "No, my father said we're choosing peace." That word stung more than anything else. Peace. As if I was the war. Then right in front of me, Lucas reached for Melissa's hand. My sister leaned into him, whispering something I couldn't hear. My mother actually smiled. I felt my throat close. "You think this is normal. You think it's love." My aunt stepped in, voice soft but sharp. "Anna, stop being dramatic. It's been years since you and Lucas started dating. Maybe it just wasn't meant to be." Something inside me cracked. My voice trembled, but it came out steady. "You all disgust me." My mother gasped. "How can you say that to your own family?" "Because you stopped being mine the moment you defended them." Lucas's voice hardened. "You're just bitter because we're happy." I turned to him. "Happy you ruined me, and now you want applause." No one spoke. The tension in the room was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat, and for the first time I realized none of them would ever see me as the victim. My father sighed. "You need to stop being jealous of your sister. She found her soulmate. Try to be gracious." Gracious. That word echoed in my head like a curse. I clenched my jaw. Gracious I was supposed to marry that man, Dad. He just looked at me with weary eyes, the same eyes that once made me feel safe. "You'll understand when you're older." I didn't answer. I just picked up my bag and walked toward my room. The smell of home, the cinnamon candle, the fresh laundry felt wrong now, like a lie wrapped in comfort. Inside my room, nothing had changed. My childhood posters, my books, my desk, all frozen in time. I started packing, hands shaking. Behind me, my mother's voice came soft through the door. "Don't leave angry, sweetheart." I zipped my suitcase. "I'm not angry," I said. "I'm done." When I stepped outside with my luggage, Lucas was standing on the porch, arms crossed. "You'll regret this, you know. Family's all you've got." I stared straight into his eyes. "No. Sometimes family is the reason you've got nothing." Then I walked away. That night I checked into a small apartment in the city. No one knew where I was. I didn't answer their calls, their texts, their guilt-tripping voicemails. For the next few weeks, I barely ate. I went through work like a ghost, smiling when I had to, crying when I didn't. And every night, I'd dream of that moment under the oak tree, the look in Melissa's eyes, the shame that wasn't shame at all. Just defiance disguised as regret. But slowly, I learned to live again. And eventually, I learned to live without them. 5 years passed. No contact, no apologies, just silence. Until one day my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize and a voice I thought I'd never hear again. "Anna," my mother said, her voice trembling. "Please, we need your help." 5 years. That's how long it had been since I last spoke to anyone in my family. I built a new life from the ashes they left behind, a good one, too. I poured my energy into work, long nights, and longer goals. By 30, I had a career that paid well, a quiet apartment with glass walls overlooking the city, and friends who respected me for who I was, not for who I forgave. On the surface, it looked like I'd won. But there were nights when I'd wake up at 2 a.m. with the ghost of Melissa's perfume in the air or the echo of my mother's words. "We can't change the past, dear." I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how people could justify betrayal and still sleep soundly. Sometimes I told myself I didn't care. Other times I knew I was lying. They still reached out once in a while. Holiday greetings, birthday text, "Hope you're well on New Year's Eve." I never blocked them. I wanted them to see my life, the vacations, the new car, the promotions. I wanted them to burn with the knowledge that I was thriving without them. Petty, maybe, but it was the only revenge I could afford that didn't cost me my peace. Then 4 days ago, I received a call from an unknown number. I was halfway through a meeting when it buzzed, and I almost ignored it. Something made me answer. "Hello." The line crackled. Then I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Anna." "It's Mom." My hand froze midair. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then instinct kicked in. "I think you have the wrong number." "Please don't hang up," she said quickly, her tone trembling. "Just listen, please." I hesitated. Something in her voice didn't sound like the manipulative calm she'd always worn. It sounded broken. "2 minutes," I said flatly. "Talk." Her words tumbled out in panic. "Melissa and Lucas, they're in trouble. Big trouble. Their business failed and now they're drowning in debt. Investors are pulling out. They borrowed money, so much money, and can't pay it back. There are people after them. Dangerous people." I said nothing. The hum of my office AC filled the silence. "They need help, Anna. You've done so well for yourself. You could save them." There it was, the real reason she called. Not to apologize, not to check if I was happy, to ask for money. How much I asked quietly, not because I cared, but because I wanted to hear how far they'd fallen. Her voice dropped to a whisper. $75,000. I actually laughed. A short, bitter sound. "You want me to give $75,000 to the people who stole my life? Please, Anna. They didn't steal anything. They just made mistakes." Mistakes. My voice shook. Sleeping with my fiancé the day of our engagement was a mistake. "Don't twist my words," she said, her tone growing defensive. "I know it was wrong, but they've paid for it. You've always been the strong one. You've always landed on your feet. Can't you help your sister just this once?" That word sister hit me like ice water. I took a slow breath. "No, I can't." She sniffled on the other end. "You mean you won't?" I didn't respond. "Anna," she whispered, "if you don't help, they could lose everything. Please think about your family." My family. My voice hardened. My family was supposed to protect me, not destroy me. For a long time, there was silence. I almost thought she'd hung up. Then came her final dagger. "I never thought I'd raise a daughter so cold, so cruel." That stung, but not because she was right. It stung because I realized I didn't care enough to defend myself anymore. "I didn't think I'd grow up to be this way either," I said quietly. "But you made me." And then I hung up. For a moment, I just sat there staring at the phone. My reflection in the black screen looked foreign, like someone who'd finally stopped bleeding. Then the messages started. At first, they came every hour. "Please, she's your sister." Then every half hour. "She could be hurt." Then finally, every few minutes. "You'll regret this. Don't let pride destroy what's left of your heart." I muted the notifications, tried to work, tried to eat, but her words gnawed at me. Regret, pride, heart. The same words she'd used 5 years ago when defending Melissa. That night I sat by the window, the city lights flickering below. I thought of how many nights I'd spent trying to heal, trying to rebuild a version of myself that didn't need their approval. But guilt is a parasite, it feeds on silence. I opened my phone again, scrolling through her desperate messages. Then, with one long exhale, I did what I should have done 5 years ago. I blocked her. I blocked them all. The quiet afterward was deafening but peaceful. For a few days, it felt like I could breathe again. My mind cleared, my focus returned. Then this morning, my neighbor called. Her voice was shaky. "Anna, there's a couple outside your house. They've been shouting your name for nearly an hour." My stomach dropped. "Can you describe them?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She hesitated. A man and a woman. They looked desperate. My fingers went cold around the phone. Melissa and Lucas, I whispered. The moment I heard my neighbor say their names, every nerve in my body went numb. 5 years of silence, and they were standing outside my house screaming for me. Don't go near them, I told her, forcing my voice to stay calm. I'll be there in 15 minutes. The drive felt endless. My hands clutched the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Each red light felt like an eternity. I could feel something dark and furious, simmering beneath my composure, an anger that had been waiting 5 years to breathe. When I finally turned onto my street, my headlights caught two figures standing in front of my house. Melissa and Lucas. They were barely recognizable. Melissa's hair was messy. Her clothes wrinkled her face, drawn and pale. Lucas looked worse, unkempt beard, hollow eyes, the kind of exhaustion that only guilt or debt could carve into someone's soul. But none of that softened me, not after what they'd done. As soon as I stepped out of the car, Lucas started toward me. Anna, thank God you're here. Stay where you are, I snapped. He froze, but Melissa stepped forward. Hands raised as if in peace. We just need to talk, please. Talk, I barked a bitter laugh. You're trespassing. You've been screaming outside my house. What exactly is there to talk about? Lucas's jaw clenched. You ignored our calls. What choice did we have? 1,000 other choices that didn't involve stalking me, I said. He took another step closer, and instinctively I reached for my phone. One more step, and I called the police. But he was faster than I expected. In a flash, Lucas lunged forward and slapped the phone out of my hand. It hit the driveway and skidded out of reach. Stop acting like a victim, he shouted. We didn't come here to hurt you. I froze, my heartbeat hammering in my ears. Then what are you doing here, Lucas? Because right now, it looks like you're about to break into my house. Melissa grabbed his arm, pulling him back. Please don't, she whispered to him, then turned to me. Anna, I swear we're not here to fight. We're desperate. Everything's gone. The house, the business, everything. Good, I said coldly. Maybe you'll finally understand what losing everything feels like. She winced as if I'd slapped her. We made mistakes. Stop calling it that, I cut in. Mistakes are forgetting a birthday. You betrayed me. Both of you. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. You can hate us all you want, but Mom told you how bad things are. We just need help to get through this. Please. You're the only one who can. I laughed, short, sharp, bitter. I'm the only one you left with a conscience, you mean? Lucas stepped forward again, voice tight. We don't want charity. Just a loan. We'll pay you back. I tilted my head. Oh, really? With what money? From the business that already failed, or the house you sold. His face darkened. You think you're better than us because you have money now? I took a slow breath, trying to steady my voice. No, Lucas. I think I'm better than you because I didn't destroy my family and call it love. For a moment, none of us spoke. The air between us buzzed like static. Then Melissa reached into her bag and pulled out a folded paper. What's that? I asked, suspicion crawling up my spine. It's an agreement, she said quietly. Just something to guarantee that you'll help us if things get worse. A promise. My stomach turned. You're insane. Lucas crossed his arms. Sign it and we'll leave. You're threatening me now, I hissed. Do you hear yourselves? You cheat. You lie. And now you're blackmailing me into saving you. Melissa's voice broke. You owe us this, Anna. We're family. That word again. Family. I felt something inside me snap cleanly this time. No hesitation, no trembling. Just anger. Cold and precise. I stepped closer until I was right in front of her. No, Melissa. I don't owe you anything. You took the one person I trusted, destroyed my relationship with my parents, and made me feel like I was the villain in my own story. You think blood gives you rights? It doesn't. You lost those when you chose him. Her lip trembled. For a second I thought she might break down, but then she pushed me, hard. You can't walk away from us again, she cried. You can't pretend we don't exist. My body staggered back, adrenaline spiking. My hand curled into a fist before I stopped myself. No, I wasn't going to give them what they wanted, another reason to call me the bad guy. I crouched quickly, snatched up my phone, and ran toward my car. My fingers shook as I hit the ignition. Lucas shouted something behind me, but I didn't listen. I drove my pulse pounding in my throat. Once I was a safe distance away, I dialed 911. My voice came out shaky but firm. My sister and her husband are trying to break into my house. I need officers here now. By the time I got back 15 minutes later, flashing blue lights painted the street. Melissa and Lucas stood in my yard, faces pale under the sirens. Oh. I stepped out of the car just as the officers approached me. That's them, I said quietly. They were handcuffed and led toward the patrol car. Lucas glared at me like I'd just destroyed his life. Melissa, though she didn't look angry, she looked hollow, empty, like a person who'd finally realized what she'd become. As they were driven away, my neighbor came up to me, eyes wide. "Are you okay, dear?" I nodded, though I barely felt my body. "I am now." When the street finally cleared, I went inside. The lock on my door was bent. The floor was covered in dirt from their shoes. For a long time, I just stood there in the quiet, listening to the ticking of the clock. Relief should have felt like victory, but instead it felt like grief all over again. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker. Somewhere deep inside, I knew this wasn't the end. Because people like Melissa and Lucas don't just disappear. They wait. They plan. And family, the kind that feeds on guilt, always finds its way back. A week passed. For 7 quiet days, I let myself believe that maybe finally the nightmare was over. No calls, no texts, no pounding on my door. But peace never lasts long in my family. It was late on a Sunday afternoon when I heard the knock. 3 slow, hesitant taps. Not desperate like before. Careful, almost rehearsed. I looked through the peephole and froze. My parents. My mother stood clutching her purse with trembling hands, her eyes red and swollen. My father was beside her, shoulders slumped in a way I'd never seen before. For a moment, I just stared. I could have pretended not to be home, but curiosity, or maybe old habit, made me open the door. My mother's lips quivered. "Anna, can we talk?" Her voice cracked on my name. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. They walked in quietly like guests in a stranger's house. My father glanced around the living room at the neat shelves, the tidy kitchen counter. "You've built a nice place," he said softly. "It's mine," I replied. "That's the difference." We sat at the dining table. My mother clasped her hands together, knuckles white. For a moment, no one spoke. Then she broke first. She always did. "I came to apologize," she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. "For what?" "You'll have to be specific." Her lip trembled. "For everything. For not defending you. For taking your sister's side. We thought we were doing the right thing at the time, keeping the family together. But after what happened last week, when they were arrested," her voice cracked, and she pressed a hand to her chest, struggling to go on. My father cleared his throat. His tone was lower, steadier. "When we saw Melissa push you and Lucas get violent, we realized we'd been blind. You were the one they broke, and we never even tried to help you. We enabled them." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. 5 years. It took you 5 years and a police report to figure that out. My father nodded, shame flickering in his eyes. "You're right. There's no excuse." My mother reached out, but I didn't take her hand. "Anna, I know we don't deserve forgiveness, but we wanted you to know that we're sorry. Truly sorry." There was sincerity in her voice, but it came too late, like rain after a drought, useless when the ground's already cracked. I stared at her for a long time. "You defended them. You called me selfish. You stood by and watched them destroy me. Do you know what that did to me?" She swallowed hard. "We thought you'd moved on. You were always strong." "That's the problem," I said, my voice trembling. "You saw my strength as a reason not to care. You assumed I'd survive anything, so you didn't bother saving me." My father's gaze dropped to the table. "We failed you." The silence that followed was heavy. I could feel their guilt filling the room like fog. "I've lived 5 years without any of you," I said finally, "and I've been happier than I ever was before. Do you understand what that means?" My mother nodded slowly, tears running freely now. "It means we lost you." I shook my head. "You didn't lose me. You gave me away." For a long while, we sat like that, 3 people sharing the same air, but not the same heart. My father tried to speak again, but I raised a hand. "I appreciate your apology," I said quietly. "Truly. But forgiveness isn't a door you can just knock on after 5 years and expect it to open. We're not asking for things to go back to how they were," my father said. "We just want to know if there's any chance you could stay in touch. Start small. Maybe dinner once in a while." I looked at them both, really looked. My parents weren't the powerful figures I remembered. They looked small now, tired or older, full of regret. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt pity. "I'll think about it," I said finally. My mother sniffled and reached into her purse. "We brought you something." She pulled out an old photograph, me, Melissa, and her bacon cookies when we were kids. Flour on our faces, laughter frozen in time. I stared at it for a long time. That photo used to make me smile. Now it felt like evidence of a lie. "Keep it," I said softly. "That version of us doesn't exist anymore." My mother's lip quivered, but she nodded and put the photo away. They stood to leave. At the door, my father turned to me. I told myself I was protecting the family back then. I see now. I was just protecting my comfort. His honesty caught me off guard. For the first time in years, I saw a flicker of the father I used to trust. After they left, the silence felt different. Not cold, just empty. I sat on the couch for a long time, staring at the front door. Part of me wanted to cry, to scream, to let 5 years of bitterness spill out. But instead, I just whispered to the quiet room, "Too little, too late." Later that night, I unlocked my phone and hesitated. My parents' numbers were still blocked. I stared at them for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I sighed and tapped unblock. Not because I forgave them, but because I didn't want to carry their ghosts anymore. Sometimes letting go isn't about making peace with others, it's about making peace with yourself. And yet, even as I set the phone down, a strange unease lingered. Because forgiveness, I realize, never closes the story completely. It just leaves a page unturned. And somewhere out there, Melissa and Lucas were still on the run, their shadows stretching long behind them. It's strange how silence can feel heavier than shouting. In the days after my parents' visit, my house felt quieter than ever, the kind of quiet that doesn't comfort, it echoes. I went back to my usual routine work gym, the same walk through the park, every evening. But something inside me had shifted. Their apology had cracked a door I thought I'd sealed shut forever. Not wide enough for forgiveness to walk through, but just enough for the past to whisper again. At night, I found myself scrolling through old photos. Birthdays, vacations, Melissa's high school graduation. There was laughter in every frame, but now all I could see were signs I'd ignored: how my parents always looked at her first, how Lucas's hand lingered on her shoulder a little too long. The truth was always there, I just didn't want to see it. I'd built a life that looked perfect from the outside. But for the first time, I admitted to myself that I was still carrying the weight of them. Every success I'd chased, every milestone I'd reached, it had all been fueled by a quiet desire to prove I didn't need them. That kind of independence isn't strength, it's survival. I sat at my desk one evening, staring at my reflection in the window. My own eyes looked unfamiliar, harder, colder. I whispered to myself, "You don't owe anyone softness anymore." But even as I said it, I felt something stir. A small stubborn ache that I couldn't quite kill. Family. That word again. It had destroyed me once, but it still had a grip on my heart. The next morning I called my parents. It wasn't planned. I just did it. My mother answered on the first ring. "Anna." "Yeah," I said quietly. "It's me." She let out a shaky breath as if she'd been holding it for days. "I didn't think you'd call." "I'm not calling to fix anything," I said quickly. "I just wanted you to know I'm okay, that's all." There was silence for a moment. Then her voice softened. That's all I needed to hear. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was just a fragile truce between a mother and daughter standing on the ruins of what used to be a family. When I hung up, I felt lighter. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the window, watching the city flicker to life below. Somewhere out there, Melissa and Lucas were probably still struggling, maybe hiding, maybe rebuilding. A part of me used to fantasize about them failing, completely losing everything the way I once did. But now I just hoped they'd stay far away. Because the truth was simple, I didn't want revenge anymore. I just wanted peace. My phone buzzed. A new voicemail. Unknown number. For a second, my stomach twisted. Old fear clawed at my throat. I pressed play. Static. Then a woman's voice, faint but familiar. "Anna, I don't know who else to call. Please, it's about Mom. Call me back." "Melissa." I stared at the screen, my pulse racing. For a moment, all I could hear was the hum of my own heartbeat. Part of me wanted to delete it right then to end the cycle once and for all. But another part, the one that still remembered her as the little girl hiding behind my skirts during thunderstorms, hesitated. I didn't press delete. I didn't call back either. I just set the phone down and whispered to the empty room. Not tonight. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance, the kind that rolls in slow and low warning of a storm long before it arrives. Maybe one day I'd listen to that voicemail. Maybe I wouldn't. But as I turned off the lights and let the darkness settle, one thought echoed in my mind. Family isn't who shares your blood, it's who doesn't bleed you dry. And for the first time in years, I slept without dreaming.